Our society confuses and mixes the word responsibility with accountability. And the reality is, those are two different things. They're not the same thing. They're related, they're close cousins, but they're totally different. You're responsible for things, but you're accountable to people. The report's not going to hold you accountable. Or as I like to say, help you be accountable. So I'm responsible for my job. I'm responsible to get the research done. I'm responsible to turn the manuscript in on time. I'm responsible to show up at the event and speak. Those are my responsibilities, but my accountability lies with you. My accountability lies in my relationship with my wife. My accountability lies in my relationship with my kids. My accountability lies with my employees. And so when you separate responsibility and accountability, all of a sudden you're separating the tactical side of what you do, your responsibilities, with the spirit of what you do, which is that connectivity between people.
It's time for another episode of the Shaun Tabatt Show, a podcast where I connect you with thought leaders from across the globe, digging into some of my favorite topics like personal development, marketing, spirituality, and pretty much any other shiny object that happens to catch my attention. Today, my special guest is Sam Silverstein, and we're going to be discussing his book, I Am Accountable, 10 Choices That Create Deeper Meaning in Your Life, Your Organization, and Your World. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hey, Shaun, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Sam, let's kick off our conversation today with a bit of what we might call the Sam Silverstein origin story. So, for the listeners who are encountering you for the very first time in our talk today, what are a few things they should know about you?
Oh, wow. I don't know how far back we should go. But when I was a kid, I used to collect old Coke bottles and sell them for 3 cents a piece. But besides that, I've had several businesses. I've been part of 2 different family businesses. And I found myself at one point in time with people coming to me and saying that they appreciated the advice that I gave and that it made a difference. And the reality was, I didn't remember having that conversation in the first place. And so I started thinking to myself, if I can have a positive impact on people's lives without trying, what would happen if I tried? And so I wrote a book, and from there started speaking and sharing my ideas on how to be the best you could be individually and organizationally.
Looking through this new book, taking a look at your website, it seems like coaching and training on accountability is a huge part of your professional work. And I'm curious to find out what set you down that path. Was it a personal experience? Was it feedback from others? How did you move in the direction of becoming an expert on accountability?
Well, it's interesting because at first I was speaking about almost everything from personal development to sales to creative marketing, leadership, just all these different areas. And quite frankly, I'd had serious experience in all of it, not only in my undergraduate degree and my MBA, but the businesses that I ran. But the reality of it was nobody knew what I did. Nobody could recommend me. My peers couldn't even recommend me because they didn't understand what I did. And so I started to think about it and say, what's my core? Where am I? And it really came to me that what I was all about, everything that I did really came down to accountability. And I started on this whole journey of understanding what my purpose was and making sure that all my activities aligned with my purpose. And once that happened, and I started seeing everything through this lens of accountability, well, then things just exploded. All of a sudden, I'm exposed to opportunities. I'm learning things that I never before imagined. All my books start to zero in on accountability, building it into our lives, building it into our organizations, building it into our world. And just a singular focus was just liberating for me.
In terms of accountability, I think we all have some preconceived notions of what accountability means or what it means to be accountable, but you seem to imply that everything we've been taught about accountability is wrong. So how have we been missing the mark?
Okay, great question, Shaun. And here's what happens. Our society confuses and mixes the word responsibility with accountability. And the reality is, those are 2 different things. They're not the same thing. They're related, they're close cousins, but they're totally different. You're responsible for things, but you're accountable to people. The report's not going to hold you accountable. Or as I like to say, help you be accountable. So I'm responsible for my job. I'm responsible to get the research done. I'm responsible to turn the manuscript in on time. I'm responsible to show up at the event and speak. Those are my responsibilities, but my accountability lies with you. My accountability lies in my relationship with my wife. My accountability lies in my relationship with my kids. My accountability lies with my employees. And so when you separate responsibility and accountability, all of a sudden you're separating the tactical side of what you do, your responsibilities, with the spirit of what you do, which is that connectivity between people. So what that does is we build on and improve our relationships, then we create this culture, if you will, in an organization where accountability can flourish. Accountability is inspired. Accountability is leaders first being accountable to their people for specific commitments, like living the values, like having their back. And then when these commitments are being lived by the leaders, the employees want to be accountable in return. And that's when they grow to be their best and to produce at super high levels.
One of the things I think about a lot in terms of, as somebody who's been managed for many years and somebody who's managed teams, one of the big challenges can be our mindset or what we believe about other people. And a lot of times in dealing with problems, somebody will say that, the problem is with Jane Smith. She's causing all the problems. But a lot of times it's really what you're believing about Jane Smith or the lens that you're viewing her through. So talk to us about that a little bit. Why is the problem not necessarily other people, but more so what we're believing about them?
Okay, so accountability is not a way of doing. Accountability is a way of thinking. And as a leader, it's how we think about our people. It's how we see them. Are they the bane of our existence? Are they causing our problems? Or are they the solution? That's a mindset. Shaun, I'm sure you've seen leaders that go, I have 43 problems, and each one has a first name.
Right.
Or they go, and I've heard this, and I bet you have too. If you could show me how to do this without people, I would love it. Or this one's even better. They go, okay, Mary, I just want to make sure that you understand. This isn't personal. This is business. I mean, come on, really. Any conversation that two people have is personal. Any interaction between two human beings is personal, even if it's in a business, about a business, for a business, it's still personal. And so how we see people as a leader is going to totally drive how we treat them, how we act towards them, how we train them, how we discover their potential and lead them to that. And so if there's a problem in an organization, it's not the people, it's leadership. The problem is always with leadership. You cannot give me one situation in an organization where the problem is the people. Because guess what? If the people aren't doing their job, it means that leadership hired the wrong people or trained the wrong people or didn't retrain the people or didn't let the people go and replace them with the right people. It's always going to come back to leadership. So if there's a problem out there, leadership needs to step up and fix that problem. And they fix the problem by how they see their people, seeing the people as the solution to the problem, not the cause of the problem.
Yeah, the idea of the buck stopping with leadership is something that rings loud and true in my own personal experiences. I couldn't agree with you more. In the book, you introduce us to 10 choices that can help us to make accountability a daily reality, really, in any relationship. Would love to have you maybe pick one or two of those and just give us some examples of how that practically works out as somebody's moving through the process you introduce us to in the book.
Well, it's 10 commitments. And what we've done is, over the years, we've defined, remember I said accountability is keeping your commitments to people. And it's not the commitments like, I'll show up at 10, I'll get this done. I'm talking about commitments that connect people. That's what accountability is. And so one of the most important commitments in an organization and as an individual is commitment to the values. People don't connect over a product or a service. But in an organization, we can agree that these are our values and we're going to live those values. And if we live those values, then we're going to get a result. And when one person isn't living the values, that's when it gets out of hand. So one of the values in an organization could be we value people. We treat them with respect. Well, if I'm not treating someone with respect and I'm creating an uncomfortable situation, they're not going to be at their best. But here's where it falls through. When leadership says, oh, well, Sam doesn't respect a couple of people, but you know what? He's our number one salesperson. We can't afford to let him go. So what they're saying is that if you produce, you don't have to live the values. And if leadership allows someone to stay in the organization that's not living the values, then those values are not the values of the company. You cannot knowingly allow someone to stay in an organization not living the values. So one of the commitments is a commitment to the values. In my personal life, it's the same thing. My wife and I prescribe to a set of values that we're going to live our life by. And we both have to be in on living those values. When we are, then there's uniformity. But if I value one thing and she values another and we can't be consistent, then it's going to tear at the relationship rather than build the relationship. Another one of the commitments is a commitment to a safe space. And I think you hit on this before when you said, how you see people pointing fingers and seeing them as the cause of the problem. A safe space means that it's emotionally safe. And when someone feels emotionally safe, then they are liberated and they are free to move forward quickly. And in a business, it means that you're able to achieve at a faster rate. But in a family, it means that you feel nourished, that you feel loved, that you feel cared for, that you're not being taken advantage of, that you're not being abused. And when someone feels nourished, loved, and taken care of, then they can contribute fully. They can make a significant difference in the impact of the people, the lives around them. Another commitment is a commitment to the truth. Lying and accountability can never exist in the same place. So there's a commitment to the truth. And the truth is not just half the truth, but it's all the truth. It's not just saying something that may be true in a situation, but leaving out important information. It's the whole truth. It's kind of like when someone is late. They say, why were you late? Well, I got a speeding ticket. Well, that's true. But the whole truth is, well, they left late and they were rushing. And that's why they got the speeding ticket. And so the real reason they were late is they didn't plan properly. They left late. So just because they did share some truth didn't mean that they told the truth. And so it's these types of commitments that bond people. And when people bond and build relationships, deep, meaningful relationships, that's when accountability flourishes. Because like in my personal life, I look at my relationship with my wife and I would never want to let her down. Now, when the people around you never want to let you down, they're going to move heaven and earth to get done whatever needs to get done. And it's the same place in business. One of my other books, Non-Negotiable, I wrote about a bank and the CEO of the bank. I conducted over 100 interviews, and the most common thing I heard in all of these interviews was, I'd rather die than let Pat down, this president and CEO. Can you imagine? The people that work there would rather die than let the leader down. And so I started asking myself, what causes someone to feel that way? And what causes them to feel that way is they know that the leader would rather die than let them down. And when you create that type of environment, then what happens is you get an incredibly high performance environment. And then you get these amazing results that you never dreamed possible. And it's because through these commitments and the relationships that are being built that people are inspired to be accountable.
Well, and Sam, I'm curious what it looks like, say, when the light bulb fully goes on and somebody really gets a hold of this message. My assumption is that they're going to be thinking of this maybe initially in a work context, but as they really grasp it and start putting some of these things into motion in their lives, is there a kind of a cascade or a ripple effect where they start seeing changes in their personal life and other places where they have impact and influence? This seems like some of that would spill over as people grow in this area.
So what happens is when you start to make accountable decisions and build accountable relationships, it's kind of like dropping a rock in the pond. And then you use the right word, the ripples cascade out. And so when I start living an accountable life, then it impacts the people around me. In my personal life, certainly the people closest to me are impacted first. My kids, my wife, my relatives, my friends. And then hopefully what happens is that I'm inspiring them to live accountable lives, to make and keep these 10 commitments that we're talking about that build stronger relationships and help you find the meaning and purpose that you're looking for. And so my mission is to build a more accountable world. I believe we do that by helping individuals be accountable, by building accountable organizations, and then through all of that, you build accountable communities in a more accountable world. But it starts with us as an individual. We set the standard, we live the example, and then we inspire the people around us to also want to make the decisions that align with keeping these commitments and building these accountable relationships.
Well, Sam, I know that you do more than sit at home and write books for us to read. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about some of the ways you bring this content to life in other forms and formats. So what are some of the other things that you do?
Well, I appreciate that, Shaun. Yeah, I do spend a lot of time writing. My goal is to have a book a year come out right now that's meaningful, that attaches to this topic and helps leaders go deeper individually and organizationally. And to help them do that, I speak at conferences and events, and I've been doing that for a long, long time. And then I work with organizations to help them establish an organizational culture that actually prioritizes and inspires accountability. And we've created assessment tools and systems and ways to build accountable leadership throughout an organization, impact their culture so that they become a destination workplace. They attract the best people, they keep the best people, because everyone loves working in an environment where accountability is high.
And Sam, for the listeners who want to find out more about you and your books, find out about ways that they could partner with you, where should they go on the web to do that?
It's simple. They can either go to samsilverstein.com, or to make it even easier, IamAccountable.com. And of course, I'm also all over YouTube and LinkedIn and all social media. They can find me through my name.
And like we do with every episode, we'll have detailed links in the show notes, places where you can connect with Sam and pick up your own copy of his book. It's time to bring this episode of the Shaun Tabatt Show to a close. Many thanks for being a part of my conversation with Sam Silverstein. Once again, our book today was I Am Accountable, 10 Choices That Create Deeper Meaning in Your Life, Your Organization, and Your World. For more on Sam and the book, head on over to samsilverstein.com or IamAccountable.com. And Sam, I just want to say thanks so much for sharing with us today. It's been a great pleasure and an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Shaun. I'd be happy to be back anytime.